Welcome to Her Seat at the Table, a conversation series featuring badass women in food and beverage and their experiences in the turbulent, ever-changing, and utterly human industry of hospitality. I'm your host, Sara Abernethy. I'm a North Carolina-based restaurateur and entrepreneur evolving into my next era in food and beverage. I'm on a mission to share candid conversations, lessons learned, and newfound inspiration with you through a female-led perspective. Thank you for joining me at the table today. My name is Sara Abernethy. I am one of the co-founders of Y Hill Hospitality. I own and operate for now Glasshouse Kitchen with my husband, my partner in love, life, and parenting, Chris Morrison, who is not here because he's picking up our firstborn from daycare. But as we're going to discuss, my role is shifting. As you can clearly see, I'm going through a big transition. I am expecting our second child no later than 5 weeks from now, 5 weeks from tomorrow. And I have been marinating for quite some time on the fact that the way that it has worked for me in my role in our hospitality group is inevitably going to have to change. And I have been carrying a lot of big feelings about that. I have been in and out of hospitality for over 20 years in various roles, but in the role of owner-operator for about 7. And what a 7 years to enter in. It really just has felt like one crisis after another. And so I am evaluating stepping back or a shifting role. And to be quite honest with you all, and especially with you four, I feel anxious and a little bit depressed. I just want to say that I feel kind of like a quitter. I feel like have pushed and pushed and pushed for 7. How ironic that I'm saying push. Pushed and pushed and pushed to keep this business alive and grow it from 1 to 2 locations over 7 years. And it's like, oh, you're just going to give up. And I know it's not as simple as that, but this is the mental struggle I'm wrestling with right now. And so I'm very, very, very grateful to these 4 incredible women who have agreed to join me today to help unpack some of these questions. A career in hospitality is not for the weak of mind, heart, or spirit. The hospitality industry is flawed in many, many ways. And in order to achieve longevity, we have to pivot. We have to evolve. It's normal. I'm saying this to myself as much as I'm saying it to any one of you. And so we're going to explore this topic of evolving for the sake of longevity, for the sake of human connection today. When I was marinating on planning this event and I got all these rock stars to say yes, it did inspire me to transition this into a conversation series. So welcome. You all are the first to attend the conversation mini-series, which we're going to release this summer. I'm going to call it Her Seat at the Table. And it does kind of look and sound like a podcast, but it's really just 5 conversations that I'm recording about the nuances of being a woman in leadership in hospitality. I've been looking for this content for the last 7 years and I can't find it, so I'm just going to make it myself. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our wonderful panelists. They're going to go a little bit out of order of our slides, but first we have the gorgeous and very fashionable Samantha Kotey.
Thank you for having me. So honored to be here with these amazing women and these amazing panelists and also with you all. As Sara mentioned, I am the owner and operator of Auntie's African Ice Cream, which I founded in 2020 during lockdown. So we've been in existence for 5 years. We don't have a brick and mortar, which we'll get into, I'm sure. But yeah, and I'm also a lawyer. I forgot about that. Yeah, so that is sort of like my nuance to my the conversation and the perspective that I have today. So I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you, Samantha. Next up, we have Vivian Howard. Say hi, Vivian.
Hi. I thought I could make it work. I am Vivian Howard. I live in Eastern North Carolina. I have had a restaurant called Chef and the Farmer for almost 20 years. And I have 2 spots in Charleston. I had a TV show on PBS for a long time, but I really consider myself more of a storyteller and a writer than really anything else.
Thank you for being here, Vivian. You are awesome. And I will never forget you saying to me 4 or 5 years ago that it's okay to take on new creative things when you start to feel stuck. Caroline Morrison, superwoman, superhero of the Fiction Kitchen in Raleigh. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. I'm really happy to be on this panel with all of y'all. So I'm Caroline. I'm the chef, owner, operator of the Fiction Kitchen with my partner and wife, Siobhan. And we've been open for 12 years. And we just recently...
And you still speak to each other?
Huh?
That's the joke I make, is
Yesterday,
you still talk?
Not this morning. Anyway, just joking. And I also have a social work degree as well as having worked at IBM and a culinary degree from Wake Tech, and was born and bred in North Carolina. I'm a preacher's daughter. So that's a lot to know about me, but that's my introduction.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
So my kid just started full-time we just made the transition to full-time daycare at a Baptist church from an Episcopalian church part-time daycare, and it has been very visceral. She's coming home singing like vacation Bible school Jesus songs. Like, is she gonna be okay, Caroline?
You know the church song?
She was like screaming down the aisles of Wegmans the other day, J-E-S-U-S, and Jesus is his name, oh, like to the tune of Bingo.
I'm okay. She'll be okay.
Okay. I should say, if you are a Baptist, I'm not hating on you by any means. It just, as someone who does not attend church, it was very jarring to go from.
I think it's great.
Yeah, it's great.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
She's doing awesome. She's cared for. It's full time. Everything's great. And finally, we have the wonderful Preeti Waas. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Preeti Waas. I own and operate, and I also cook. Actually, I cook. I'm the cook, baker, bottle washer at Cheney Durham, soon to be Cheney RTP, and also opening a little boutique bodega called Nanny Goat in RTP. And I guess we can get into all that in a little while.
We also need to give Preeti some extra special love because the Bar Beach attached to Cheney Durham was just nominated for a James Beard Award in the Best New Bar category.
Well, I have to say this. It may be my name on the lease, but the Bar Beach being attached to Cheney Durham is the only reason why it's associated with me. That is all my older daughter, Amy. So we actually have 2 semifinalists in the same family.
Deserves some. Get loud, y'all. Get loud. Come on. Yes. So much incredible talent here in North Carolina. We really are so fortunate. Oh, and who's that? That's me. Hi. We have 3. If you don't know me, if we've not yet met, we have 3 brick and mortar locations under our restaurant umbrella. Y Hill Hospitality. Our first is Y Hill Kitchen and Brewing in downtown Raleigh, which, if you are a Raleigh-ite like myself, was the home of the former Boylan Bridge Brew Pub on the Boylan Bridge. No regrets, but don't know if I'd do it again. And then this is our second location, Glasshouse Kitchen, which we opened in February. No, I gave birth in February of 2022 to my first child. Then we opened this location in August of that same year, something I'll also never repeat. And then we do have a third Precious Angel Baby little lunch counter that nobody really cares about, and it's fine. Across the street called Twisted Ladder. It's really more of an amenity space for the Alexandria tenants, this gorgeous ag tech campus that we are on. So that's us. Here we are. So ladies, the first big question I have for each of you, and in no particular order, please feel free to jump in. I would love if you would feel comfortable sharing about a moment along your journey. I mean, collectively, there's like a century in the industry here where you've made a significant pivot, a significant shift along the way.
I feel like between these superstars, I have the least amount of culinary experience in the space. So my pivot was, I guess I could say, a little bit easier. As I mentioned, I started Auntie's African Ice Cream in 2020. And I think the ultimate goal at that point was to have a brick and mortar. I also mentioned I'm an attorney. I'm a full-time attorney currently. That is my profession. And so Auntie's has always been like, while it is my passion and my love and the thing I wish I could do full-time, it is a side hustle. And I have not found the space yet to be, and I don't mean the physical space, I mean like the time and space in my life, and also trying to progress my professional career that I paid a lot of money for and worked really hard for. And so I decided recently, I'd say maybe in the fall of last year, to try to focus on anything but a brick and mortar. So that currently looks like a residency at Kingfisher. It looks like pop-ups that are less frequent. I used to be at the Black Farmers Market, every single market. I haven't been in a while, but totally saying, hey, farmers markets may not be the route for me currently at this stage of my life, and focusing on private tasting events. I've found a lot of joy and fulfillment in those because of the storytelling aspect that Vivian mentioned, and sharing different cultures within the continent with folks in an intimate setting. And like I said, like residencies. So that's something that I would say that I had to make a major shift recently.
You're so lucky. I was told, but I didn't listen, that when you have a brick and mortar, you are so much more time that I could have possibly been prepared for was allocated towards repairs, maintenance, and building drama.
And I saw that because my husband, I didn't mention this, former restaurateur.
Yes, that's what I wanted
to say. And that is part of the reason that I was like, oh, no.
So you are married to a restaurateur.
Yeah, he'll be here later. Probably.
And you have seen and been in the trenches when things like this have gone wrong. Did that influence your decision?
1,000%.
Yeah, I forgot to mention I'm an electrician too.
You are?
Yeah. Have to be.
Yeah.
I watched my husband drill a hole into his finger. And I was like, this isn't for me. I don't like, because he was doing some electrical work, actually. Oh. And I think the sacrifice, I admire anybody that does it, but the sacrifice that it takes to have a successful brick and mortar is just not a space, like I said, that I'm currently in. I can't even envision that in my current life. So.
And is Auntie's something that you hope to become your full-time vocation at some point?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you. Anyone else? And was there an oh shit moment and you had to pivot that you want to share with the class?
I knew that you were going to ask this question, and so I've been thinking about it, and I can't tell you when I was not pivoting.
Right.
I think, people always ask me how I got discovered for this PBS show, and I was really, had been running Chef and the Farmer for 5 years. I was pregnant with 2 children, and I was like, I gotta, clearly me having children is not going to get me out of this restaurant because I'm here right now. Yeah. And so I've got to do something else. I've got to find something that fills me up. And so I was trying to make a documentary that I was not going to be in. Yeah, that was my original pivot. And then I'm someone who I think really cannot not follow her gut. And so I make, rash decisions and say I'm going to stop doing this. And then I do. And, but when you stop doing something, you need to start doing something else. And through all of my pivoting, what I've learned is that I really like projects that have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I've found that restaurants in general, unless you reshape them to suit that sort of structure, which I'm trying my damnedest to do, just don't fill me up in the way that I need to pursue, to live a stable life, really.
Well, some of the other things you've done, like your cookbooks, for example, you have a concept,
it has a beginning,
right? It has
middle,
a beginning,
and an end.
Probably a really ugly, messy middle at points where you're like, fuck, why did I do this? Maybe, I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, everything worth doing has that. And, I think that, unfortunately, over the years, I've painted the restaurant business, and we're all about to, talk about how hard it is. but there's a reason that we started doing it and still want to do it. I think we all just like want a reprieve from it where there's not guilt attached to it. And just the nature of restaurants and having customers that want to come back to them doesn't allow you to do that. And if you care about what goes on in your restaurant, then you kind of feel like you need to be there all the time.
Well, you have said, well, correct me if you haven't said this, and I'm hallucinating, that you felt with Chef and the Farmer like you had promised guests this experience that if they were going to travel, that they were going to expect to see you and interact with you and have you there, and that you just couldn't deliver that because it wasn't sustainable.
No,
and how that ate away at you.
That's a really unusual situation.
Yeah.
You know? But that's one of the one of the last pivots I made was I chose to close Chef and the Farmer and like completely dismantle what it was. Because for years, you know, I couldn't stand the fact that people were traveling from everywhere to come and eat there and see what they had seen on the show. And I knew that they weren't going to see that. I had charted another way home so I didn't have to go past the restaurant. So because I didn't want to see all the people that were there to see me. And like lots of therapy's been on this now. But, and then I tried to reinsert myself in the restaurant, and it was a machine that I was not really a part of, and I didn't like the machine. And so there was really, I dug my heel in and pivoted and said, we're going to close this. And it's been incredibly unpopular. But I'm so glad that I did it.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
But it, you know, just the point is like pivoting's not always popular.
Yeah.
And people are not always in support of it. And so when you get ready to do it, you just have to know that it's the right thing for you.
Right. I will say I've intentionally peeled myself back from day-to-day operations everywhere on purpose. And one of the things that I am afraid of, which is going to happen, is should I choose to return, there's not a spot for me.
It won't be the same.
And it won't be.
Yeah, and really because the people that you work with, your team, they're the people that believe they're going to be your team.
Yeah.
And when you become part of another team or, you know, it's just not the same. But that's okay. Everything has a season.
I think that's what I need to hear is that it's okay.
Yeah, everything.
And it could be better.
It could be better.
And as I said that I opened our restaurant with my wife and partner, Siobhan, and she originally was going to be like the creative director. We call her the creative in charge of radishes. Like, we just like to have fun with it. And she did most of the art and she would work some of the front of house. But she is an introvert through and through. And to watch her have to put on that hat every day and be that host and be that person that was not her. And it was really tough. And it was getting to the point where she'd come and whisper in my ear about something I needed to go tell an employee because I'm the social worker, so I know how to do that delivery, right? So she has moved out of the day-to-day operations, and she has found if she tries to come in, there's not that place. Yeah. But other people have fit that void and helped still create whatever was there, but also change it to something better.
Now, you guys are in the process of a glow up, I should say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you talk about that and how that came about for you?
I like that you're using the word shift a lot more than pivot because I really think after COVID, I did not want to hear pivot again.
Okay, we'll erase it from the record for the rest of this.
I mean, we all were like, we got to pivot. We got to pivot.
I hear you. Shift.
I liked the shift word.
Great.
When I envision that pivot, like I just see myself like it's like a pure web. Like,
Yeah, not really a pivot. More so than
like digging a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
Our space only seats 41 people, and I actually never thought we'd be open as long as we were our old space on Dawson Street. And we built that restaurant on a shoestring budget and worked out of a 3-door cooler with fresh produce mainly on our menu for 10 years.
Unreal. That's unreal.
So COVID really, I was actually one of the last people to cook at the James Beard House when COVID happened. And I was lucky enough to be one of the WELL Fellows, Women Entrepreneur Leadership, so with James Beard. And some of the people who were with me actually cooked that night. And seeing what New York was like, you know, we were taking the train everywhere, and it was just like dead. And no one in North Carolina knew what was getting ready to happen. But being in New York at that time, when I called my landlord, I'm like, yo, like, things are about to be shut down. And of course, he said that they'd work with us, and they didn't really. And we had never done takeout before either. So we just had a line out the door all the time, never done reservations, never done takeout. So it was really one of those times when I had to say, do I take this time to close, or do I take this time to say, how can we keep ourselves alive if this event happens again? And how can I diversify my business within itself without going crazy? Which meant looking for a space where I could actually possibly do some catering, have some outdoor events, an outdoor space, some grab and go, and a space that could allow for that diversity within ourselves.
Joey and I picked up takeout on Friday from Fiction Kitchen and had the most delightful chicken and waffles, which she did not share with me. And it was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, it held up great.
Thank you.
For the rest of the weekend, I will say. So Caroline is fixing to open a much larger, you're in a in-between location right now in Gateway Plaza in Raleigh. If you're familiar with that, right off of Capitol Boulevard at the intersection of Crabtree, and is going to be moving into, hopefully soon, this dream space where you can.
And so this is also a part of a pivot. Is we've all seen the food halls come up, and we were looking at possibly moving to a food hall, but I've really it just felt not right. I don't know, for me. But like, how can we take the smart things out of a food hall or a shared space and use those in a new way, in a different way, without making a food hall concept? So we're actually sharing our dish room and our bathrooms, and we're sharing a walk-in cooler with another group called Malaplata, which is Angela Salamanca from Centro and Gallo Paylon, and Marshall Davis from Ex Fado, and Patty Boy at the food hall. And so they're doing, as well as with Eric Montague from Locals. So they're doing like a fresh masa seafood concept paired with my vegan place. And then at Gateway Plaza, we actually have a stage in the parking lot. We're going to have outdoor seating. You can order QR code. You'll be able to have an omnivore dining experience, but have choices too.
Very exciting. 2025. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Well, in speaking about evolving in hospitality, sometimes you have to devolve.
Devolve.
Yes.
Say more.
Because, so that happened with me personally. I didn't set out to do that, but I was the vice president / sales coordinator / a lot of things at a venue in downtown Cary. And after the person who used to own it swindled me out of almost $100,000, did not pay me for 6 months of work, all of that kind of stuff, I was so upset, and rightfully so. And after I literally turned that business of hers around from bankruptcy, I was so disillusioned by the food business that I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. But I had to do something that fed me. And what fed me was baking cookies. That's something I'd been doing for such a long time. My cookies are famous. If y'all don't know that, come try some. And I don't toot my own horn. I mean, there's people telling me that. So, but I was like, you know what? What makes me happy is baking cookies. So I got my home kitchen certified, baked cookies, and sold them at the farmer's market. It is very hard to do that, as you know. The schlepping, the loading, the unloading, your back, the weather variances, all of that. all that being said, I went from doing all that to just baking cookies and selling them face to face to people, petting dogs and holding babies. You know what? At the farmers market, I loved it. That's all I wanted to do. You can call it devolving, but I called it, it felt like going back to the true me. And then that's where the hospitality came back into my vocabulary. That was hospitality. That was being hospitable. It fed them and me. And once I went back to that, it sort of opened up a door within myself, and opportunities arose from it that I never could have imagined, ever in my wildest dreams. So it is absolutely okay to keep doing and keep like rushing forward like a freight train that does not, that like, basically its brakes are off. Just slowing down, getting off at the next station and saying, you know what? I'm just going to sit here and watch trains go by because I really like trains. I actually really like trains also. So it is okay. It is okay to get off at the station.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's give a round of applause for that. I like being busy. I like juggling many projects at once, and I feel like I get a lot of self-validation from that. But I've also chosen vocations along my path that had a lot of value and worth, like all, mushed up together. Part of my original pursuit out of college was as a professional opera singer. I don't know if all four of you knew that, but I could bust it out right now if we really wanted to. But singing, musical performance, which translated into sales, and have been doing hospitality in and out of that. And then most recently in the last 7 years, it's been about, well, I'm as worthy and as valuable as my business is successful, or my business is perceived as being successful, or my business leadership is good. And this idea of consciously taking a beat back from that feels very uncomfortable. But I think it's what it's needed. I think it's what is needed. I think that's why it feels so uncomfortable. I'm curious for any of you if you have also wrestled internally with this, I am not what I do.
Yes, you think I have?
Yeah.
Part of me stopping the show and not having the restaurant, this was not intentional, but I've gotten to look at like, well, why did I run toward so many things? And like, I'm so competitive, I don't compete unless I think I'm going to win. And, I was so good on the show because I know what people want to see, because I've been pleasing people my whole life. That's how you survive, and that always seemed great because it worked out because you pleased people and you made them happy. But then, when I closed the restaurant and it's like, oh shit, people don't like me for the first time in my life. And I can't, I couldn't even wrestle with it, couldn't even understand it. But then, you start thinking about, well, why do I run toward all of those things? And why is my self-worth wrapped up in the things that I accomplish? When I won a James Beard Award, I called my dad. My father's a wonderful father. My parents are wonderful people. It doesn't mean they don't hold you to expectations. And I was like, Dad, I won this James Beard Award. And he goes, that's great. What else can you win? I'm still in the airport on the way back. I was like, well, the Emmys are coming up. And, when my book was on the New York Times bestseller, my mom said, well, you were an English major. And so, it's like, and then getting no kind of satisfaction from those achievements. It's like, why? So not having all these things going on, not running toward that, like somebody gratify me, has allowed me to sit and think about why I do those things. And I don't think it's going to change the way that I feel when I like make someone happy. But I hate that I'm like 40, almost 47 years old, and I'm just learning this about myself. If I could do anything for my children, it would be to let them know early on that they are more than their achievements.
Someday maybe I will learn this too.
Well, I mean, I have children right now, and I'm, on their ass about doing shit. So
I think this is a really universal idea that I assume many of you can relate to. And there's no arrival, right? Like you, with these creative projects or these, as wonderful as the recognition and the awards are, you get there and it doesn't fix, anything really, right? I mean, it's wonderful, but there's no arrival where you're like, oh, great, I did it. I'm done now.
No,
you know what I mean?
No. And I think as soon as you start thinking that, and I felt like pretty good for a little bit. And I think as soon as you start feeling that way, and might be my overachiever in me, then you start, my dad always says, if you're not gaining, you're losing.
So you're like, what's next?
Yeah. But he always meant about weight. If you're not losing, you're gaining. but he also turned it around. But
for me, it was everything had to be perfect. Even as a stay-at-home mom, my kids had to be dressed perfectly. Dinner had to be ready at a certain time. Everything from scratch every day. House would look perfect. All of those things. And I realized that was really my mother's expectations of me, although she lived a couple of continents away. And the day I told myself I'm a good enough mother is when things changed for me. So being good enough meant I didn't give a shit about the toys on the floor. I was on the floor with my children. So that kind of shift, when that happened for me, and also I will say it's a personality thing, right? Each one of us is wired differently. Each one of us responds differently to our parents' expectations and their criticisms and all of that. I became, I think, the person who, if my mother expected something from me, I was going to do the opposite because I'm ornery that way. And so because she expected to literally take her white scarf and wipe the any piece of furniture and not have anything come off on it, at my house when she was visiting from India, by the way, that was her expectation. The day after I gave birth to my older daughter, I was on the floor mopping because she was like, oh, the floor's dirty. So anyway, once I let go of all that, it became more of a, not just let go, I did exactly the opposite of her expectations. That's what I did. So, but speaking to what you're saying, Vivian, right, is that what's next? And speaking particularly to the awards that you won and, the recognition, the acclaim and all of that, for me personally, I know, and I'm saying this not because it makes me sound good. Most of you in this room know me, or some of you in this room know me. For me, hospitality is being able to cook and feed people and watch them leave nourished and satisfied. If I've achieved that, I'm good. And so there is no next for me. If somebody else walks in the door the next day, of course, you want them to walk in the door so you can pay rent and make payroll. But that's the goal. So as long as I can achieve that goal, that's very personal to me, then no matter what I'm doing, I'm okay.
That's really beautifully put. One could say that being in business for 7 years, as we have, is a huge win, period. Even if everything were to go away tomorrow.
I would like to add to that, because I will say, in addition to closing Chef and the Farmer, which I think after, 15 years, every restaurant needs to evolve. In my opinion. I also closed the Boiler Room, which was the town's favorite place in the world,
Which was across the street, right?
Yes, and it was open for about 7 years. And when I closed it, people were like, how could you do this? It was such a success, and you're just going to close the success. And I'm like, and the restaurants support the people that work in them and the community for as long as they last. When you open a restaurant, no one is signing a contract with anybody saying this is going to be around here for your grandchildren. And I look at it as a period of time where, 40 or so people made a living from that place, and thousands of people enjoyed it. And now it's something new, you know, and I think that's the point of it. And I always hate it when people are like, oh, you know, I closed this or that, and they're like, I'm so sorry. And it's like, no, it did a good thing for as long as it could.
And everything is cyclical. Like there is no eternal business, right? I mean, everything has its time in nature.
Yes. And so why do we have to be held to a different standard?
I think that's a really great way to look at it. Yeah. What a win. What a win.
It was a huge success.
Huge success.
I think well, I guess this is getting at the point of we all get to define what success means to all of us, right? I have always thought until now, you know, my definition of success is, are the doors open and do I still like Chris Morrison, who I'm married to? Do I still like him? Period. And those are big, and it's not every day that, you know, those two are true, but as long as those two things are true, that to me is a win. Part of the reason why I am reconsidering my role in this business is because I do like my husband and I want to continue to like him. And quite honestly, we may be coming to the end of our time as colleagues. And I think that's perfectly healthy and fine. I think you've all worked something that you could all attribute to is whether you're in a relationship during your entrepreneurial venture, that person's with you, whether they're a part of it or not, you know, they're in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what I said about part of the reason why I didn't want to have or don't want to have a brick and mortar. My husband's business, restaurant, had been in existence way before we even met. But when we met, he was the person that was owning and operating and, like I said, drilling holes in his finger and doing all types of stuff. And so when you see somebody put in that much effort and blood and sweat and tears, as their partner, you want to be there to support them, and it can take over your life. And so, you know, going back to what I originally said, I didn't want that because I like to have some sense of flexibility. My professional career doesn't offer me the most flexibility all the time. And so adding on to that with Aunties, I could see that if I kept on with that path, I would hate Aunties. I began to resent Aunties, actually, when I was doing the farmer's market every single weekend. No weekends. I love to travel. It's fine during COVID when we couldn't really travel. But once, you know, borders started opening up, we were able to get on planes again. And I had to make ice cream every single weekend and had to be there and be the face of the business and explaining to folks why this mission was so important to me. I began to get burned out and realize that I have to figure out a way to shift, not pivot, shift, and reconfigure this because the mission is the most important thing to me, and making sure that folks get the opportunity to explore those flavors, those ingredients, a bit of that culture and tradition. It's been a difficult, and I feel like you, Sarah, a little bit of a failure, a little bit of a I'm giving up. But
you're not. You're saying this, and maybe I should listen to myself. But you're saying this is in the next era. This is the criteria I need to thrive. These are the conditions I need to thrive, and you're not willing to negotiate that. What could be a failure about that?
Yes, you know, that's what we're telling you. But I think knowing the potential, like if I put as much of myself, and I tell people this, in Aunties as I did in my professional career, it'd be wildly successful.
Yeah, but you are different now. Yeah.
And I was just thinking, all we're talking about is making me feel like hospitality is like an addiction in itself. And we get this, and if you've worked in the hospitality, you do, especially after a good night on the line or a really good service night, you get this high. And you're like, everybody's like, yay, we did it. And you get to see all these happy faces and you put out this really good food. And there's nothing, again, there's just like no other feeling other than that. But it's like, how can you keep feeding that? And I think, Vivian, your point to like having an end in sight or figuring out how you can feed your own soul too with that, like looking at the trains, taking the moment to stop. One thing I've been doing a lot is a lot of training in my kitchen with the staff and realizing I'm not going to be able to work saute the rest of my life. I just turned 49 and I still do dishes and work saute. And so sometimes I have to say, what am I doing? You know, and that's really good advice to stop and look.
Has there ever been a time where you knew inevitably that an evolution, a shift was coming and you resisted it? And I'm curious if anyone would be willing to talk about that and why you feel like you were stuck.
Resistance only comes when you're trying to meet other people's expectations. If you listen to yourself, which none of us are good at doing. I sound like I'm giving such sage advice that I follow all the time. I am the worst at that. So it sounds good though.
The only time I've ever resisted my urge to shift in my work is just when I'm concerned about what it's going to do to the people around me. And sometimes it takes years to get to a comfortable level to do something, even when you know you're living with like, this is not right. I know this is not right. I've got to address this, but I can't do it right now. And it just depends on how much you can endure that. But I want to say, I hated that you said that you felt like a failure for not pursuing this brick and mortar right now. Again, I'm giving lots of great advice but someone told me recently, I've thrown the same putty at the wall for like several years. And every time it comes back to me, I'm like, I feel like a failure. And, but then eventually, you know, like I learned a lot from all of it coming back to me and was able to apply it to something else. And so I think every time we fail what we consider failures, we're really like gaining a whole lot. And I know that sounds so cliche, but I really do think it's very true. And I've learned a lot more from failing than winning awards. My dad would not agree.
Also, what happens is, do we have the ability to resist that change? Sometimes there's no choice but to keep going. So the question is whether you have the choice to resist or not. And sometimes you just don't. Sometimes you just have to keep doing because people are depending on you, or your lease is not due for renewal, or, you know, 1,000 other reasons.
Leads me to one of my favorite quotes that has actually got me through a lot of things. Is by Maya Angelou, and she said, when you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, change your perspective. And, you know, if you can really do that in your head, it really helps with, you know, periods of time that you can't change it. But
I think that really describes my last year. There were so many things, recognizing the landscape of what is happening and what we're on the hook for and who's depending on us, that I did realize I can't change this, but I can change and I can't control good Lord, you can't control anybody around you, but I can change how I look at this and the choices that I make. Are there any other morsels of wisdom you might share that are coming up about evolving? I mean, I think it takes a lot of courage to do that and to take a step back and shift your perspective.
I actually don't have a nugget of wisdom, so I'm not going to answer your question. However, I am going to say that this has actually been so timely for me because I'm pivoting in my professional career as well. I've been doing a certain type of law forever, and I'm not into it as much anymore, and I've been trying to find the space to do the law that really like moves me and energizes me, and you know, all of the positive things. So thank you to these ladies because this has been amazing. It really is like the push that I needed, and I actually have been resisting Preeti in this exact moment on this exact thing. So this is what I needed.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Is there anything coming up for the four of you that you want everyone to pay attention to? You've got some new stuff on deck.
This new project is something I'm very, very proud of. It's called Nanny Goat. We're calling it's a boutique bodega, but my friend who's actually in this room gave me the phrase of borderless bodega. And the way it's going to be a borderless bodega is I'm offering this opportunity to the staff who works for me first, all immigrants. And if they have been wanting to pursue entrepreneurship, of they own a micro business, and whether it's a language barrier or red tape barrier or any of those things, I will help them with that part of it. They can use my commissary kitchen and prepare ready-to-go meals that we will then sell at Nanny Goat. So you can have Argentinian food and Colombian and Indian and African and all kinds of... so it's open really to anybody who expresses interest and who wants to pursue that. And I don't think that it's a revolutionary idea, but it's something that is revolutionizing me. And I think that's good because I believe in the ripple effect. If you impact one person at a time, they'll impact another person. And I believe that makes for more sustainable change than throwing a giant boulder in the middle of a lake. And so that is something I'm really passionate about. And I want to see a Nanny Goat at every corner that I can.
So this is Nanny Goat at the hub, right? Coming. Excellent.
So here in RTP.
Here in RTP. How can we support Auntie's ice cream, African ice cream?
Go to Kingfisher.
Yes, go to
like
Kingfisher.
I said, that's
Have
where
a
we
great
are
cocktail.
currently open to other residencies. So if you know anybody that would love to host us, we would be happy to have aunties on your menu.
Right here.
Well, look at that. And then also, nothing has been cemented yet, but there will be some sort of tasting, ice cream course tasting again this year. I did that last year and it was amazing. I loved it. So yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
How about for the Fiction Kitchen?
Well, we
How
did
can we
our
support you?
plug already,
Yes.
but if you've never been, how about come on out? Don't be afraid of tofu
It blew my
When
mind.
Caroline's cooking it.
or vegetables.
Or vegetables.
Instead of beeper. Is that your place?
Yes. And come, I remember you're at the bar. I mean, I can tell you when Ashley's been there. I can tell you when she's been there. Yeah. Anyway.
Not just be like a saying.
No. They're like, Vivian Howard. I'm like, yes, I know.
It's okay. She's a person. She likes food.
I have a story about Vivian. We met at Fab. So we met at Fab. Chidi introduced us, and typically I'm a lot more. I had major case of foot and mouth disease, but I looked at Vivian. I was like, oh, that's why you look familiar. I kept wondering why you look familiar to me. Duh. Your face literally stares at me from my breakfast table because of your cookbook. Of course I know who you are. But I was looking at you like, and you're like, yeah, I'm famous. I was like, oh, that's right.
That was a period of time, when I was doing really good.
I love it.
Yeah, come on in. We take reservations. There was a long time we did not take reservations. So, and we will probably be moving beginning of March. So if you want to get into our temporary space before then, make a reservation. Otherwise, follow us on all the socials.
And Vivian, how can we support you? And Handy and Hot, Viv's Fridge.
Well, I just reopened opened a new version of Chef and the Farmer inside the building. And it's a casual spot. And I had really intended to, like a year ago, I ran into my first ever sous chef at Chef and the Farmer in Walmart. And I had not seen her for 13 years. And we decided that we were going to work together on this project. Well, she had a health emergency the day that we opened and was not ever able to come back. And I really didn't have, it was just me and her and two other people. And so it's really shifted, it's changed a lot for me. And for for a month, I was like, I've got to find somebody to do this because I can't do this. I've got other things coming up. But it's been actually really good. Sometimes I think you pivot, and sometimes I think you get squunched into something and you figure out how to make it work. And for the business and for me and for the team building aspect of it, it's been a gift that I've been forced to do this. And I feel really good about it. It's still really hard. This second stage of my career, I tried to make it so that my children didn't have to suffer at the expense of my work. But, because of this, I'm working like I was in early days of Chef and the Farmer, and the body is not the same. But I see a way through, and I bought a church at the end of my driveway. This was a while back. And I am making it into a little culinary studio, and I'm going to film a show in there starting in March.
Wow.
Yeah. And with PBS. And then this summer I am opening, and they're going to announce this on Wednesday, I think, but there's a resort in Duck, North Carolina called the Sanderling, and it's been purchased by a property group, and there's a standalone restaurant there that's on the Sound, and I'm going to be opening it. It's going to be called Theodosia.
Oh,
because
wow.
Theodosia Bird, likely perished in a shipwreck off the coast right there. And I've always been fascinated with the myths and legends around the Outer Banks. And so what's fun about this for me is it's seasonal.
Yep.
It has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
So you won't be open, off season.
No, I mean, I'm sure I'll have responsibilities,
Yeah.
but like and it puts me in a place where I'd like to be more. It's a subject matter. I really love the research behind cooking and read the stories, and so it allows me to dig into a subject matter that I'm interested in, and a different type of cooking. All kind of seafood, and we're gonna hopefully have a fridge there. Because the fridges are meant to be a mechanism to build revenue within a pre-existing restaurant, particularly ones that are not open for lunch. And so I would get to do a lot of things there that are exciting to me. And it has a beginning, middle, and an end.
Do you have any other
Every
tips
year.
for? Yeah, no, I love that. Love that for you. You like managing many things at once.
I really don't.
You don't?
No, I mean, sometimes you do things because you have to.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
there's
fair.
And the things that I get to do are great, but if I didn't have to, would I necessarily
Choose it?
Probably not. But I've also learned by doing things that I have to, and not because I want to. I'm a leader, a healthier, happier life. And I do think that if we have too many options, we're never happy.
Yeah. So that's coming in 2020.
Oh no, it's about to happen, girl.
Oh, it's happening now. Theodosia's.
Theodosia's going to open May 22nd.
May 22nd. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So you guys, if you're going to Duck this summer, which I actually do go to Duck every year.
Well, so the Sanderling is the only, the Sanderling is the only resort on the Outer Banks.
Yeah.
And this company, Brookfield Properties, bought it, and they've overhauled it. It's going to be really beautiful. I mean, I feel I'm in a little bit over my head, but we just fake it till we make it. And then the restaurant opens
right?
And you're like, woo, Theodosia.
You'll get there. The show must go on, right?
Yeah.
That's exciting. I just read Ina Garten's memoir, and the idea of having like a seasonal shop sounded so romantic to me because of that. Like, you're done at the end of the season, and then there's other things that you have to do, of course, to maintain. But I get it. That sounds amazing. I can't wait to try it.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to leave a little bit of time for some questions from our wonderful audience. Thank you all so much for joining us today. There is a microphone here. I would say we have time for probably 4 questions thereabouts, but does anyone have thoughts, feelings, musings? Advice? Yeah, we're all in this together.
I don't have a question, but I just have something to say. I know everybody in this room, but I'll just be transparent. In the last 3 months, I have gone like full Game of Thrones, scorched earth on my life in every single facet. And I was forced by all these circumstances and time to make these huge decisions. And now that I'm in it and in the muck and the mire and like headed towards the other side and sitting here at this particular time in my life, listening to all of you, it feels so comforting because it's so easy as a mom, as a wife, as a business owner, entrepreneur, as a self, as a friend, to put in an intense and insane amount of pressure on yourself, and everybody else puts it on you. The expectations of women is just insurmountable, and the pressure we put on ourselves. And to hear everybody's journey and have it be relatable and hear like there is no destination and how much our ego sets us up for this house of cards that is our life, because you never know how it's going to transform. But just to sum that all up in how insanely comforting this conversation has been to me, and I imagine for probably everybody else in the room in different ways. So thank you to all of you for being so candid and honest and sharing this, because it's so helpful. It's so helpful for people to know, like, it's okay to not do this, be this, all those things.
Thank you, Felicia.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. And that's also validating as to why I thought, well, maybe other people want to come witness this. You know, as I was planning this event, I thought, is this stupid? And is this like too asking for attention? But I thought, what if it's an act of hospitality? What if there's other people out there that feel just like you do and might resonate? So I'm so glad you're here.
I totally resonate with what you said. So yes, second that. But kind of along those same lines, I am like deeply in the thick of it because I opened this bakery with my husband like 2 years ago, and we're just like living there, and we've got like a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, and we're trying to balance like work and life, and it's really hard. And I think like on top of that, the environment that we're in right now, where marginalized communities, a lot of which like some we're a part of and a lot our employees are a part of, are being like heavily targeted. And it's very hard to just kind of like exist at this given moment. Like I know there's no perfect amount of advice, but what kinds of things can you do, are you doing, or you have done for yourself and for your employees to make sure everybody like stays sane when it just feels kind of hard to operate, when it just feels, you know, you have to go in and put on a face for all these customers who come in and you want to give them this awesome experience, but the world just feels like super heavy. So what do you do? What can you feel? That's a lot, sorry.
Recently, I bought everyone aprons and just gave them an apron. I try to, we've also had a big round of the flu going through. And even though I don't say that people have sick days, I'll try to throw them a sick day, especially if, you know, or if I can tell that person might need a mental health day that day, I'll be like, hey, I got you. Take today off. And just today I was looking up and trying to decide how to speak with everybody about ICE, and like, what if ICE comes through the door, and like have a plan for that so we all know what's going to happen there. But to actually talk to them about it and say, hey, I'm looking into this. We're going to plan this. We're going to get through this together. And just to make sure to have conversations with them about it. And I think make yourself available is really important too, but you need to make yourself available for yourself too. But y'all are doing a great job, but I know that the 2-year mark is a tough one too, just to let you know.
I'll piggyback on that. What's your bakery?
The Blue Bakehouse.
Awesome.
Like kind of on the edge of downtown Raleigh.
So
like an area kitchen, yeah.
Great. So
The
Tuesday.
best macarons.
Oh,
So good. The best.
I love cookies right now. I love cookies always, but yes. Two things are coming to mind for me. Number one, you have to give yourself so much grace. And this is feedback I've been getting, and it's so annoying to hear. You have to give yourself grace if you are holding space for a business and employees and 2 children and your marriage and yourself. Be so nice to yourself. You are doing a great job already. And even like the thought that you would even have this question means you're a good human being, right? That you're even taking this on in your mental load. Secondly, I heard Chidi say this at the FAB conference this last year, which plug for FAB in Charleston 2025. It is it is the best. If you don't know FAB, it's a conference focused on hospitality for women. Content like this, if this resonates with you, you'd love FAB. Excellent, great. She said to really pay attention to the distinction between self-care and self-soothing. And in these times, both are okay. But just as you are doing what you can in your limited time for yourself, just pay attention to what's really actually revitalizing you versus what's just like, in the moment. So that's what I would say.
I would also say don't discount your team. You want to be there for them, give them an opportunity to be there for you. They will surprise you. They will surprise you in the best possible way sometimes. I've had a very traumatic event happen 3 weeks ago. I don't actually yet have the words to tell you just how much my team has carried me. But I've been away as much as I needed to. But my daughter, who was there every day so that I could be shielded, and then my team carried her. And don't discount your team. Give them the opportunity.
Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for hosting this. This was exactly, my friend Chris and I were like, we were meant to be here. We were meant to hear what you had to say. I relate so much to what Felicia said about the burning it down. For me, last year was a year of realizing deep burnout from people pleasing and overachieving, and then realizing like so much had to stop. So then I started burning things down. And something that was said about trusting your gut and listening to your inner voice. My question is this. I've gone through the year of burnout. I've gone through like stopping so much and stopping the people pleasing. Now I'm coming up against the like, how do you trust your gut when everything that you did got you to a place of overcommitment? So how do you like find the courage to restart?
I'm just, my answer's short. Clearly, I'm bad at answering that question because I just like had a mouth load of projects that I'm working on.
I got nothing for you.
I don't have as many projects as you, Vivian, but I'm also taking on maybe more than I can chew, but that's okay because my gut tells me that's what I need. How do you listen to your gut? How do you know whether it's your gut or whether it's something you're telling yourself is your gut? None of us have that answer. None of us actually have a clear-cut answer for that. I will say this, lean on trusted people. If you don't have to have a circle around you. You can have one person, you can have 2. Lay yourself bare to them and listen to them as well. And if that then coincides with how you're feeling, even 60% of the way, and here's something else. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. You had the courage to burn things down, have the courage to take another step forward. What could go wrong? Even if the worst went wrong, you now know you can control your narrative and your story. Do it.
In my experiences of making gut-based decisions that panned out well, I have always felt it physically in my body. And it's might be a little woo-woo for some people, but just learning to pay attention to the hell yes energy. There's no way else to describe it. If something's not right, you also feel like an ick.
I can say that, after I burned a bunch of things down, I did a few things professionally that did not pan out. And I spent a lot of time on one of them. I was trying to take over the entire culinary program at this weight loss spa in Hilton Head. And I basically wrote a cookbook for them and went down there and trained all these people, but I could never, I worked like 6 or 7 months on it. And what I was doing, I was escaping into this work, but I could never come to an agreement on the contract. And so I was going down there and spending every other week when I didn't have my children down there working on this, and did it for like 6 months and never got paid a cent. But I'm so glad I was like willing to do the work because I needed something to escape into. But I was not willing to sign a contract with them. So I did this weird kind of calculation in my head that it was worth it for me.
Well, at least you got something out of it.
My gut told me to.
Yeah.
As a resident attorney here, I'll say, don't you dare.
Aren't you proud of me for not signing the contract, though? Aren't you proud of me for not signing any contracts?
I guess. Sure, that's a perspective.
Selfless little semi-club.
Do it.
So I run Fab, who they are talking about. And Sarah had invited me to, she was like, if you're happen to be in the neighborhood from Charleston. And my friend Katie and I made ourselves in the neighborhood for this. Part of me, and I developed Fab because this community, this hospitality industry is so difficult for women. And that I wanted to create a space where you could talk about the really hard shit, about burning things down, about restarting. I'd never use the word pivot. I can't stand the word pivot. It was refigure, reconstitute, recalculate, it was like, that's it. But I think that seeing what you've put together and having a support group around you that could be able to be there for you through the really hard things, to be the sounding ground, to give that great advice that you yourself don't take. But it gives you the opportunity to really be able to give that validation for what you're doing. And for everyone that's in this room, whether you're however you identify, it's so important to have those resources and to have those people, and to remember that you are not in this alone. There are people just like you that are out there that are trying to start something in an incubator kitchen that really, or whether they're doing the farmers markets and you're like, God damn it, I just want to go away and I hate this shit. But that are going to be able to get you through it. So always be together as a community. And part of it is like, I love that you're doing this because I want to be able to go to every community and bring those communities together, or someone to come back from Fab and say, like, this is such a great idea to be able to have these people come together, to be able to just share honestly, openly. My tagline is total transparency and zero bullshit. Because you can't have any airs about it. You have to be able to talk honestly about it and not hide anything, because that doesn't do anything. And the ick factor is very true. So anyway, I also appreciate this community because so many of you here have trusted in coming to Fab without even knowing anything about it. And keep doing what you're doing in this community.
Thanks, Randy.
Yeah.
Right back at you, babe. We had one more back here, I think.
Maybe I should meet you halfway. Would that help you? No, I just love that. I just want to say thank you. It was good to share. I mean, I was looking for something as well. I've been in business 10 years and made a change 2 years ago, and it was so I was just looking for just some community. I think that's perfect. Exactly what. And my tagline is, I'm not Willy Wonka. I don't sugarcoat shit. So I just love this. So I appreciate it. I'm also in this, trying to figure out what shift I need to do as well. Because it's quite hard when you expand and through all the things. So it's great to share. And it's great to be in and hear all the stories and that you don't feel like you're complete and crazy. So thank you. Thank you for putting this together. I appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure, really. Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
So I can't thank you all enough for being here. Can we please get a round of applause for our wonderful panelists? Truly, what an A-team lineup. Thank you all so much for taking the time. I know everything's crazy and life is crazy, but I really appreciate you sharing. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Her Seat at the Table. I hope you leave inspired with a morsel of motivation to take into your day, your week, into the next chapter of your career. And if you loved today's episode, share it with someone who you think could benefit from hearing it, and maybe consider leaving us a 5-star review. I hope to see you soon, and thank you so much for listening to Her Seat at the Table.